Ladies and gentlemen, damas y caballeros, let's welcome to the stage 2022 Hispanic Man of the Year, Tony Perez.
Pictures, if we smile somewhere, where we going? Woo! Alright. Alright. We're gonna save that dancing for later. How about another round of applause for our magnificent Hispanic Woman of the Year, Grace. To share this stage with you, it is an honor. Thank you so much. I have several other thank yous for friends and family who are here celebrating in the excitement of the evening. To my friends Hor and Zenobia, who flew in from Chicago to be here, thank you, you guys. To my sister Ray, her husband Ray, my nephew Joey, who you've seen putting on a performance out here. I love you guys. They flew in from California this morning. Thank you. To my friends Ramsey and Sam, thank you guys for being here. To my Bay First family, none of what I do I couldn't do anything I do without your support, guys. To friends Bill Genovese, Nick Voinovic, thank you guys for being here. To Uncle Brian, Aunt Joyce, Aunt Kitty, thank you. To my dear friends Kevin and Lauren O'Connell, I love you guys, thank you. That was really funny with the Tony TP thing, by the way, man. Really like that. To my mother and my father, there are no words. But guys, today is a special day. Not only are we celebrating the Hispanic Man and Woman of the Year, but today is actually my father's 65th birthday. Maybe you guys can help me with a happy birthday, Ralph, on the count of three. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday, Ralph! I'll hear about that one later. A special thank you to my friends at the First Citrus Bank table. Thank you so much for your ongoing love and support. Jack Barrett, you are awesome, man. Thank you for putting my picture on the marquee on a busy Del Mabry Street. How cool is that? Thank you so much. To my mentor and friend Pilar Ortiz and her husband Bruce, wherever you are, thank you guys for your love and support. Cousins Alex and Laura, thank you for being here. To my South Florida family, Lisi, Frank, Saul, Mami Lola, Nick, and Chris, 305 in the house. Thank you guys for being here. To my friends Leo and Jose Valiente, thank you guys so much. To my in-laws, Dennis and Lori Brown, without your support, none of what I do. We just couldn't do it. Thank you so much. To my wife, Sarah, and our 3 lovely kids, Gwen, Carter, and Ava, I love you guys. To the organizations that I get to be a part of, the LCAC, the MHAC, the HPWA, yes, thank you guys so much. And lastly, a special thank you to Tampa Hispanic Heritage for the work that they do and for putting together this magnificent event. You know, actually, I remember when you guys first called me to tell me that I had been selected. You're laughing because you remember. Maribel literally said to me in the middle of July that from that day forward, she was going to take complete control of my calendar. And she did just that. But I tell you what, I couldn't be more grateful because the last several months have been full of amazing experiences. Experiences like throwing out the first pitch at the Rays game, spending time with the Tampa Bay Lightning, being on the field at Raymond James Stadium, getting a shout out by name from our wonderful mayor at one of her city events. She sure knows how to make a guy feel special. Being asked to speak at countless events, and of course, countless radio and TV interviews. You know, in these interviews, the question that's asked more often than any other question is, what does this award mean to you? And I'll tell you, as many times as I've answered that question, I can't help but feel that my answers fall short. Almost as if it's missing something. I haven't been able to quite express the gratitude that I'm feeling inside. So tonight, here's my promise. My promise tonight is that I'm going to answer that question for us, wholeheartedly. And I've come to realize that in order to do that, I need to not only share with you my family's story, but I need to share with you my personal story as well. You see, I'm what they call a first-generation American. I was born in the city of Chicago, but my parents were born in Cuba. In Cuba, my grandfather worked at the U.S. Navy base proudly since he was 18 years old. My other grandfather had a dairy farm. Life was really good in Cuba. That is, until one day the rumors of a communist Cuba became reality. They became reality one morning when my grandfather walked out to his farm and he was greeted by men with rifles who said that this farm was no longer his, that it now belonged to the state, and that he had one of two choices. He could either stay and work on their farm, or he could leave. Knowing that there was no future, there was no hope in a communist Cuba, my grandfather decided to leave with his family, ultimately landing in the city of Chicago with little to no money, living with family, not being able to speak, read, or write English. Imagine, if you can, what it's like trying to find work, enrolling kids in school. My father's family came to this country with 5 kids under the age of 16. Guys, I have 3 kids myself that I can barely get out of the house on time for school in the morning. Much less managing a family under those circumstances. I don't know how they did it. But to my grandmother, Mami Lola, te quiero decir que te quiero. Gracias por estar aquí conmigo. Gracias por todo que tú has hecho para nuestra familia. Gracias por cuidarme cuando yo era niño. Gracias. You know, for anybody who's on the outside looking in, you see a family under those circumstances, and it's easy to probably think to yourself, I don't know if this family will ever be able to get back up on their feet again. I don't know if they're ever going to make it, but you know what? When my parents and my grandparents tell the story, they tell it with excitement. You can hear it in their voice, you can hear the hope. And they'll tell you it's because they knew they were in the United States of America. They knew that this was a country that rewarded hard work. They knew this was a country that rewarded doing the right thing. That this was a country that rewarded those who take care of their neighbors. And you see, these were all values that they knew they had inside of them. So it was only a matter of time before they knew their circumstances would change. With that, they went to work immediately, doing whatever they had to do to provide for their family. You see, I come from a family of housekeepers, factory workers, a family that oftentimes had to take 2 or 3 different modes of public transportation in the cold winters of Chicago just to get to work every single day. My grandfather even started a business fixing flat tires. Fast forward that story 30 years. And I take a lot of pride to share with you that that business grew to 11 distribution centers, across 3 states, and that over 100 employees, families, depended on our family for paychecks. I like to say that my family did their part, and our wonderful country delivered on its promise, as it so often does. A story that I get to share today more often than I ever have. Brian alluded to it a little bit. He called it the uncle story. Well, I love that name. That's exactly what it is. I remember fixing flat tires one summer with my uncle. And as we closed up shop that day and started to head home, I noticed that we were going in a different direction. I remember saying to my tío, "¿Pa dónde vamos? Where are we going?" He said, "Tony, te quiero enseñar algo. I want to show you something." Moments later, we ended up in downtown Chicago, parked on the side of a street at a busy intersection. And that day, my tío said, "Tony, look around." That day he called them the beautiful people. I'll never forget. He said, "I want you to notice all the beautiful people. Men in suits, women in blouses." And then he said, "Now look at me." And as I looked at my uncle, almost with a tear in his eye, you could hear it in his voice. He said, "Do you know why? Why I have oil on my hands? Why I have oil under my nails, even on my face? So that you don't have to. So that you can be like them." My uncle passed away unexpectedly from a heart attack at the age of 50. And I don't know that my tío ever truly knew how that day would impact my life, how it would not only provide me the purpose and the passion to accomplish and achieve, but that it would also provide me the encouragement and the hope to keep standing when life would get difficult. How many of you know that sometimes life can be difficult? I see heads nodding all over the room in agreement. And while it's great that society encourages us to celebrate accomplishments and achievements and accolades, heck, that's why we're here tonight. It's unfortunate that all too often the part of the story that's not talked about enough or shared or discussed is the part in which we encountered those difficult situations. I say it's unfortunate because here's what I believe. I believe it's in those moments that our character is revealed. I believe it's in those moments that we find out who we truly are. I believe it's in those moments. It's those moments that make us who we are today. So tonight I want to share with you, and more importantly, I want to celebrate with you a difficult moment in which I encountered in my life. And I want you to know that this is the first time I've publicly shared this with anyone. But I do so because here's what I know. In order for me to answer that question, what does this award mean to me? Then this is a part of the story that I need to share with you. You see, this was a period in my life some 20 years ago, what feels like a lifetime ago, in an era that I like to call the BS era of my life. Yes, you're laughing because you know exactly what BS means, and yes, I promise you that my life was full of BS at that time. But I also like to think that the BS could mean before Sarah, my wife, era. Because those of you that know my wife can attest, had she been in the picture, none of that nonsense would have happened. She would have stopped it immediately. To my wife, Sarah, I love you. The life that we've been entrusted with is a blessing. To my 3 children, Gwen, Carter, and Ava, guys, we want you to know that we love you and that there's nothing in this world that could ever change that. And while I laugh and I joke and I make light of this period in my quote-unquote BS life, I want you to know that there was nothing funny about this period in my life. This was a period in which I allowed destructive habits to consume my life. A period in which I was spiritually and emotionally bankrupt. A period in which I would not only become a burden to those around me, but even a threat to myself. This was a period in my life in which I would be brought to my knees and eventually reach out for help. I remember that day I called the one person who was still answering my phone calls, my sister. My sister picked up the phone as she always had, and she reassured me that everything was going to be okay, that she loved me, and that she was proud of me, her big brother. To my mother, my father, my sister, tonight I dedicate this award to you. You are my cornerstone. Thank you for helping me and guiding me. Thank you for guiding me to get the rest and the healing and the recovery that I needed so that I could continue living a life full of significance and purpose. And you see, while this happened, like I said, some 20 years ago, I often ask myself, how could my experience benefit the life of others? How could what I went through impact a community? I've asked myself that question often, and 4 years ago, that question was answered. It was answered as I pulled up to a red light one summer morning on my way to work. I was approached by a man in need. I rolled my window down and I handed him the one thing that I had close by. It was an umbrella. I'll never forget the expression on his face or what he said that day as he held the umbrella close to his chest. Mister, are you sure you want to give me your umbrella? Mister, this is going to help me so much. I hope you know. Mister, if you were to get out of your car, I would give you a big hug. And while I may have wanted to get out of the car to give him that hug, I'm going to pause my speech here for a moment to give you a public service announcement. You should never get out of your car at that moment, okay, guys? Don't do it. No matter what you're feeling inside. There's too many crazies out there. Don't do it. Back to the speech. But that day, as I drove through the red light, my eyes flooded with tears. And they flooded with tears because, you see, I was transported back to a period in my life in which, although my circumstances were different than his, that feeling of emptiness inside, that feeling of being without purpose, was all too familiar. That day I knew that I had to do something. It was that day that our non-for-profit Covered Hearts was first born. And tonight I want to share with you that just a few weeks ago we received approval on our 501c3 status, and that just last week we had our first community outreach event. And I want you to know tonight, 4 years later, that Covered Hearts has officially launched, and we are in the business of having a positive impact on our community. In closing, you may be thinking to yourself, an umbrella? Really? Trust me, I know, I thought the same thing. And while I wish I had time to share with you these various ways that an umbrella benefits the homeless, or I wish I had time to share with you the countless stories that we heard last week. For example, the very first umbrella that we gave out was to a homeless man who couldn't wait to take the umbrella back to his wife, who's also homeless and in a wheelchair. He says that as they move around, they spend their days essentially looking for shade and shelter just for her, and that this umbrella was going to change things for her. I wish I had time to share with you the countless stories just like that, or how we plan on going from umbrellas to housing. But that'll have to be another time. Another time over coffee, perhaps, or what we like to call in West Tampa, cafecito. Rio Alvarez, I see you clapping. But I will leave you with this. On your table, you'll see table tents with a QR code. When you have a moment, I encourage you to scan the QR code. It'll take you to our website where you can learn more about Covered Hearts, who we are, and how we plan on impacting the communities that we serve. And lastly, on your way out tonight, where you checked in, you're going to see a table covered with 150 to 200 Covered Heart logoed umbrellas. My ask is that you take one. And when you feel the moment is appropriate, I ask that you give it away to someone in need. And my hope is that in doing so, that you not only benefit the person receiving it, but that you yourself will experience the same joy that I experienced at that red light 4 years ago when Covered Hearts was first born. Thank you.
Congratulations, Anthony. Congratulations, Grace. How many of y'all think that with Anthony's moves, he should have been out here with the flamenco dancers? No, you know better than I do. Well, congratulations again to Anthony and Grace. Incredible accomplishments, and like I said earlier, what we have witnessed and we have experienced with every Hispanic woman and man.